Yes,
Are
guys.
Maya temples older than Egypt's? And what's the connection between the Americas and Egypt? Well, first off, thank you for the big 5 USD. Are Maya temples older than Egypt's? Well, the very origins of so here's the thing. In Egypt, they would build a site, and then later cultures, or the same culture but thousands of years later, would build continuously around it. In the Maya world, they would do that sometimes, but they would also, you would have this smaller pyramid, and then when the king died, his chamber that he lived in would become his tomb. So they would entomb him into his chamber, and then his son would build another temple on top of that, live on the top, and when he died, he was buried there, and then the pyramid just grows with every generation. Those oldest pyramids, or the pyramids that we found, the oldest bodies in them are around, the very oldest bodies are anywhere from around 400 to 500 BC. But we do have evidence of Maya kingdoms, Maya civilization going back to 1000 BC. However, in Egypt is like incredibly old. So I think it's, we have evidence that Maya people were living in caves 10 and 20,000 years ago. So the Maya people have been around for forever. Definitely as long as Egyptian civilization. But as far as the temples, it's, I mean, we're talking, the Egyptian temples are so old that people are saying that they could potentially be far older than they really are, and there's some good arguments for that. So I would say that Egypt's temples are much older. And
Go on.
sorry, you go ahead.
I was just going to interject one thing. Like for what we know for sure is that some of the Egyptian temple sites, so not that the temple themselves
Mhm.
are that old, but the sites are older because we know that they
Yeah,
used
sure.
to so like the Middle Kingdom would build on top of Old Kingdom sites,
Yeah.
and there is like there's lots of evidence to say that they did something called it's the oh, I forgot the name of the stone, but basically there was like a ceremony, a seeding, that's it, temple seeding. So say I wanted to build a temple in the Middle Kingdom, I would choose an old site and I would keep a piece of the masonry of a big block of not marble, but of granite, and I would put it into the ground and I would build my temple over it, and it would be like the kind of lucky seed of growing your new temple, because all of the sites are not by accident, they're all aligned to something and they've got very ancient alignments, and there's all this stuff about activating the building of temples in ancient Egypt. So they're connected to ley lines and hot spots of energy. um the Karnak
Mhm.
temple, for example, is on this crazy hotspot of energy where the trees literally grow. They don't grow up, they grow along the ground. It's really weird. So there's something happening, um like with nature and the energy fields of like the world. It's not by accident. So a lot of the sites, even if some of the stuff um doesn't date back like further than maybe the Old Kingdom, um I
Mhm.
bet all my money that the sites that there was something there previously and they've recycled and reused it. So
Sure, sure, yeah.
super
That
old.
that's interesting of what you say about, were you saying it was Karnak Temple, that how the
The,
trees
tr-
grow in a strange
the
way?
tree, yeah, the trees are at Karnak. The trees grow kind of like along the ground. It's really weird. They kind of come out, but they don't go up. They sort of like, ugh, it's very weird. You're like, something's
And
so
is this something that, like when you were there, will the I mean, even the local Egypt guides, do they think anything of it, or do they, brush it off, or I'm just curious.
um yeah. So what did they say?
You may not even have that conversation while you were
Because
there, but
I saw that it was the first time I ever went to Egypt that I saw the weird trees that go along the ground. Um, and I think there's like a lot of lore goes on around them. Like it's sacredness and special
okay,
trees, and
okay.
it's definitely noted. But Karnak specifically as a site, so there are certain sites in Egypt that have what I call like up energies and down energies. And you can definitely go into somewhere and go like, "Ooh, this feels kind of heavy, or it feels kind of like creepy." And then you've got sites where you go and it feels like someone's giving you a shot of adrenaline and you just feel like you
Mhm.
can breathe maybe 2% more in your lungs. And so Karnak is an up energy site where you're like, it's like re-energizing you. And then sites like the Giza Plateau it's a super, I feel like it would be hard to be like super sad on the Giza Plateau because the energy is like, "Woo," it's like
Wow.
fizzy. And I think that we're humans, our brains are all electromagnetic, and I think we can absolutely 100% sense when we're going into zones of like, because it's physically reacting with us and our cells and our whatever we're doing. So there's science behind it. It's not all, a lot of woo woo is actually scientific. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I definitely think this is something that I've been saying a lot is I think that there are things in science that are I think that there are other levels of science that are thus far like can't be tested and can't be proven, but people, that you can feel things. Like they can't really fully explain love. And so or humor, why people find things funny, but we do.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that there are aspects to science and to our reality that can't be proven and are thus far untestable. The reason I wanted to bring that up was I liked. I find that really interesting about the way those trees grow at Karnak. And I loved yesterday. I watched your video again over Sekhmet, the statue,
Oh
and
yeah.
and I was just thinking there are so many other aspects of Egypt other than the pyramids, the Sphinx, the Osirion, the Serapeum, and the unfinished obelisk that are really fascinating. That I think that the audience as a whole, people that love this stuff, oh, I should throw the vases in there as well. Although the vases are new and they're really cool. Well, I say new, but it's kind of new to pop culture.
New old.
Yeah, and but I think that that is something that you should make a video on. At some point, some things that are like that. I think there's a lot more mysteries in Egypt that people would love to hear about that aren't the regular 5 or 6 that we always hear about.
Mhm.
So let's see. Let's see. All right. Garito, thank you for the Big Ten. I'm curious to see if your first trip to Egypt will change your view on the structures, builders, theories, connections to other sites around the world. Wow. Um, there's a lot to unpack there. Curious to see if your first trip to Egypt will change your view on the structures, builders, theories, connections to other sites around the world. Well, I definitely think it's going to. I definitely think looking at Egypt in videos and photos is going to be a lot different to experiencing it in person, and it's probably going to be it's going to be even more so pressed upon me how impressive these sites are. Um, and I think that probably I'm going to become even more open-minded to I don't even know, explanations that maybe my brain thinks seem crazy right now, but I see it in person and I'm gonna be like, oh wow, now I understand. I'm looking at it in person. It was the exact same thing when I held the vases for the first time. Matt Bell, friend of Johanna and I, he owns a bunch of these vases. And before I went to go visit him in Florida and I held them in person, I didn't understand the fascination. I didn't understand the need for like some kind of ancient lost technology to make them. I couldn't understand it until the first time I held them. And so I think that probably my first visit to Egypt, which is actually now going to be a few months sooner than I thought. I just got invited to help film a project in Egypt in October. This is like as of 2 days ago. So I'm headed there in October, and yeah, I'm sure my viewpoints are going to change a little bit there. What about you, Johanna? I mean, when you first went to Egypt, did it? What was the effect that it had on you?
Oh my gosh. Sorry, my light's falling over. Yes. So obviously it's really useful following channels. Anyone that like vlogs and photos and like Ben from Uncharted X is probably, I would think he's the best, closest thing to just walking around Egypt you'll ever get if you don't go there. But then going there in person, and yeah, it's like it's allowing yourself to feel the senses. So it's not just eyes, it's like it's being in those zones of high electromagnetic activity. And we know for a fact that places like Karnak have got, they are emitting like way higher electromagnetic.
Mm,
I've seen the photos of the readings. So yeah, it's being able to experience that, plus if you're like me, when my imagination gets set on fire, um, just the scale of it, like you think you know how big the pyramids are, and then you actually get to see them, and you're like, holy! And it puts. I know when someone says like, "Oh, moving a 1,000-ton block is really hard," and then when you stood next to the 1,000-ton block, and you're going, "Now that's not just hard. That's like we have a major problem with
Mhm,
physics and how like why is everybody not stopping what they're doing in the world and trying to work out this problem
mhm.
because it hurts your brain. It is so big. The seeing the scale of it, the craft of it, I just have a huge amount of respect for people in the past, these
Yeah.
civilizations, the indigenous people of these locations. I'm like, oh my I feel so uncool and so untalented, and I was like, I will never be as talented as a stonemason from the early dynastic Egypt. It's depressing but inspiring at the same time.
Yeah, well,
So,
it's crazy. I just did a video on my YouTube a few days ago called Egyptian megaliths you've never seen before.
mhm,
And at the end of the video, basically one of the things that I talk about is that I think that whether or not these, some of these structures are 12,000 years old, whatever that knowledge is of how to quarry, cut, transport, and carve and then polish, these megalithic uh, monuments, or these megalithic aspects of these temples, that was 100% preserved all the way to the end of Egypt, 30 BC when Cleopatra dies. That knowledge of how to do that was still there because it's directly after that when Cleopatra, when she dies and Rome annexes Egypt and Egypt becomes a part of the Roman Empire. It's directly after that that Augustus visited Alexandria and he saw these granite, marble, and limestone buildings that he thought, Rome is so powerful. We have all this money. Why is it being dwarfed by the grandeur of Alexandria? And so they quarried a lot of the buildings in Alexandria and then rebuilt them in Rome. And they learned from the Egyptians how to make these beautiful buildings. And the way we know that is the Parthenon in Egypt. These 100-ton columns that sit underneath the Parthenon, those are Egyptian gray granite from Aswan, and it's perfectly cut and polished cylindrical columns that are 100 tons a piece that they quarried in Aswan, carried all the way up the Nile into the Mediterranean, across the Mediterranean, all the way to Rome, and then erected them. That alone is insane. I just it boggles the mind, and that's one example of
mhm.
thousands of monuments like that. Fu Man Blue. Can you read this one down?
Whoa. What you're doing means the world to some of us. Keep it up. Well, we're passionate. This is our passion. So we're happy to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard in some ways, and it's a lot of work. Sometimes to force yourself to sit down and work on these things. Even after you go work your day job or whatever else it is you're
Yeah.
doing. But you guys being here, looking up and seeing that there's 683 people with us today,
Are there?
is
Hello.
is wild.
I
Um,
forgot.
yeah, it's
I forget
wild.
we're going live. I'm just chatting about this. Like, this is fantastic.
And you guys mean the world to me, and I'm sure Johanna feels exactly the same way.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, thank you so much for the donation. Yeah, I I'm just lucky. I can't even believe I was looking at one of the discords the other day, and there was some people in there having a conversation about. I was on a podcast that came out yesterday, Next Level Soul, and there were some people in there just saying that they liked that the work that not just myself, but people like Johanna and Ben and the Snakes were doing, and I was just thinking like, how fortunate and lucky I am that to even end up in this situation where I'm friends with so many of the people whose videos I would just when I'm at my day job, I would go put my AirPods in and sit down and eat my lunch and watch these people's videos, and now I'm friends with them and working with them, and it's really cool. But none of that would be possible without anybody watching. So thank
Yeah.
all of you guys.
And this is just the beginning. Like we're definitely like the newbies on the
Yeah.
block in
Oh
terms
my
of
God. Yeah.
this, there are some proper legends who've been doing this for like 20, 30 years. But it really cool because we're joining at a point where like so many people are tuning in and like starting to notice and starting to get involved. And yeah, so much stuff's already been discovered even in the last 3, 4 years. So crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. See, your mom, hey, thank you so much for becoming a member.
You.
All right, let's go
Oh,
down.
somebody just asked, is there a Discord? We don't have a Raiders of the Past Discord yet. We're still brand new to the podcasting world. Um, Not gonna lie, I don't know. I am part of a few Discords, but I'm not like a massive Discord user. So I'm gonna have to like sharpen my Discord
Yeah.
skills before I
I,
run
I
one.
use I use Discord for gaming. That's about it.
Okay.
But I'm sure I saw a comment earlier that somebody said that they would love some Raiders merch. We're definitely going to do that
Yeah.
at some point. But we're gonna make it something nice, and we'll put together a Discord of some kind for sure. Because
Yeah.
I know that there's a big section of the audience out there that loves that.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Go on.
sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, the plan is obviously we're starting like slow and just
Yeah.
casually making the podcast, but we would love to build it, concentrate on it, and like our big plans for like long term is we are trying to pitch a show. We would love to try and get proper camera crews out, and be able to produce something a little bit more higher end. And so yeah, like, and we'd
Yeah,
also like to do
that's definitely gonna happen.
meetups. Talking, we are regulars at Cosmic Summit, but definitely looking to do other meetups or going out to sites with people. That would be
Yeah,
something we'd be keen to do.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, Decky69, thank you for the big two. Glad to see you join the fray of ancients. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's see. Lance Morris. Uh-oh. Name 3 Nirvana songs, Johanna.
The what?
So Lance Morris, I don't know if you can see the comment I put up. He
Oh,
donated
right.
35 czar.
Smells
He's
like Teen Spirit. That's what I
um,
remember from when I was 13.
mm,
Um, oh my God. I could like sing you.
Something in the Way is my favorite. Is my favorite one.
I could sing you a bunch. When I was 12, 13, maybe 14, and I was just getting into like skateboarding and rock music, that was when I liked Nirvana. And I saw this t-shirt the other day and it reminded me of my little 13-year-old trying to skateboard self. And I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
cool. But I don't believe in that name 3 songs of a band. Dude, if you like something, you like something. Yeah.
yeah. Agreed. Okay, Raceland Mahiri. $5 donation. Thank you very much. Those trees are just tired growing along the ground ones.
No, they're not. They're massive. They're big, healthy trees as well. And what's interesting, just to skip back, if anyone's joined now going, what are we talking about? Trees. At Karnak Temple in Egypt, there is an area, and only in the temple area, not outside it, just in the temple, some of the trees grow out and they grow along the ground, and they're big and they're lush and they're green, and they're like alive. They are, but they just don't grow up, they grow along. I'm gonna try and find an image somewhere. I'll post it maybe
Yeah,
on
yeah.
my YouTube.
I would love to see this.
I'll send yeah.
All those little weird things about Egypt. I think people find that just as fascinating as everything else. There's
Yes.
so many little things. At some point, we'll have to do an episode on the Sekhmet statue anomaly. I'd love to hear more about that.
Mhm. Oh yeah,
Uh,
I'll bring that up maybe another. We'll do a whole Raiders on the
yeah,
second.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, Raceland, thank you very much for becoming a member. We got Zion again. I have to ask, did you know? Well, I'll let you read this one. I think this one is directly at you.
Okay.
Is you, Johanna?
Um, oh, sorry. I have to ask, did you know Michael Weatherly, Tony from NCIS, was on your Göbekli Tepe tour? He spoke on your video and your YouTube video. No, well, I didn't know Michael Weatherly was gonna join the tour until I was on the tour. Actually, embarrassingly, I'd seen NCIS, but I think ages ago when I was very young. And it was on the first night of the tour, and I got introduced to Michael. And they were like, "Oh, this is Michael." And I was like, "Nice to meet you, Michael. What do you do?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm an actor." I was like, "Oh, me too." what have you been in then? And they're like, no, Johanna, he's like a big actor. I'm like, oh, well, lovely. But very good friends. Me and Michael, we went through a very intense experience in ancient in Turkey. I didn't actually put it in my vlog because I was doing a sponsored video and I wasn't allowed to, but I can say now because this isn't sponsored. We were actually caught in a there was a gunfight between some Syrian
Crazy.
refugee families near Göbekli Tepe. There was a big joke that we were gonna, be careful, you're near the Syrian border, but we felt very Turkey's beautiful, and Turkey is a non-gun owning country, and I did feel very safe through Turkey, but this just happened to be some freak gunfight between some warring Syrian families, and we got caught in it. And me and Michael Weatherly were in the restaurant, and we were like hiding behind a table, working out what we were going to do. And yeah, he's lovely, and Michael's visited London with his wife, and I went out to dinner with him and his wife and
Ah,
my
so cool.
partner. So I'm chums with Michael Weatherly, and he's just as lovely in person as he is. And he's a big fan. Turns out he's a big fan of my channel and wanted to come on the tour. So
That's
very
so
cool.
cool. That's so cool. Well, not the experience you had, but
Not the
good.
cool, not nearly getting shot in
Yeah.
San Lofa, but yeah.
Well, and that's kind of the way that a lot of these countries are, is they're mostly perfectly fine for you to visit as long as you take the same precautions that you do anywhere else. But the locals there will be violent with each other, but very rarely violent with tourists.
Oh yeah, so just to say, because some people do say like, "Oh, I'm a bit scared to go to Egypt." So Egypt, there has not been like a harmed American or English tourist in Egypt in like 20 years or something. Like they are very respectful. They rely 90% on the tourist industry. So everyone in Egypt is so lovely to tourists, and you feel very safe, and they are so used to tourists. Turkey is especially like southern Turkey, it's the tourist industry is a lot newer, so there isn't quite the same like established tourism that there is in Egypt. But yeah, but the actual Turkish people were so lovely. Like we'd go into the villages, and the kids would come down, and they'd made us fresh bread, and they didn't even want any money for it. They just wanted to like share their bread with us, and the little kids were running up to it. Was so Turkish people absolutely lovely. Yeah, we were unfortunate to get stuck in the middle of like a gang fight between um these Syrian families. And yeah, for someone who doesn't live in like I'm not around guns. I'm from England, so that was traumatizing.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was a lot.
All right, Jeffrey Weathers, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Why are there no hieroglyphs depicting the construction of the pyramids or how they cut, transported, and manipulated the quarried granite megaliths? Okay, I'll go first. So,
Go for it.
my own theory as to why they didn't depict this is because Egypt knew that they were elevated among the rest of the world around them. And there's a reason that we don't share the methods by which we produce nuclear warheads in the United States because it elevates us above the rest of the world. Sorry, Johanna. And I didn't mean it like that, but I just mean there's a reason that you protect
You
things like
protect
that.
you protect your secrets, your national security secrets.
Yeah, and so I think that the Egyptians are holding that, uh, close to the vest, and they're not going to disclose that to the rest of the world because why would they want the Mesopotamians learning how to carve? I mean, the Mesopotamians are living on limestone blocks, and there's granite out there just like there is, everywhere else in the world. But why would they want the Mesopotamians to begin doing that? And why would they want anybody else to be elevated? So these are national secrets, essentially, that they closely protect. And I think that at the end of the Old Kingdom in Egypt, when we really see a lot of these, a lot of megalithic stones, we don't see them as used as commonly in Egyptian architecture. I think that when they fall into the first intermediate period, Egypt is kind of turned upside down. It's ruled by some foreign leaders, and there's some invasions. I think that either that knowledge is lost, or it's buried, or something like that. So they it seems like they lose that, even though we definitely know that it's preserved to some extent all the way up to the end of Egypt. or maybe their economy just can't afford to do that anymore. But anyways, I think that these are things that they would not openly like for other countries to be able to travel to
Mm.
Egypt, learn how to do it, and then bring that knowledge back home. That would be my
That's
theory.
what I think. Either the actual answer to how the pyramids were built was so boring and that nobody ever thought to like immortalize it in stone because they were
I
like,
love that.
what? It'd be like, why would somebody detail how to build a brick wall today when it was like it's dead boring? Why do we care?
Yeah, sure, sure.
Um, or I think it's more interesting actually why there are no hieroglyphs on these structures,
For
considering that
sure.
they are on absolutely everything else. Like I think it's more interesting why there's no decoration on anything um when it's literally the aesthetic of Egypt is to cover everything with beautiful ornate things. So I find it more interesting what so yeah, there's no hieroglyphs depicting how they were made. You do have the ancient texts talking about limestone transportation or to the
Yeah.
Giza site, but then also to be
Marrer's
fair,
diary. I think that's what it is.
there's been so many phases, I think, of reconstruction and recycling and renovation that you can't totally rule out that there wasn't. We know that the old kingdom sites, the Sphinx and some of the old kingdom temples were renovated in the old kingdom. So I yes, there is Giza texts, like there's like an inventory of Tura limestone that was being lots and lots of it, and
Yeah.
the pyramids are made of Tura limestone. But um, it, it's hard to completely rule out if there wasn't a lot of. Personally, I think that the Old Kingdom and the Fourth Dynasty was a bit like the Industrial Revolution
Yeah.
that we had, and I think that they had an industrial revolution of their own, and I think that they were repurposing, recycling, and renovating a lot of the sites, which is
Yeah.
why all of the carbon dating around the Giza Plateau and the ancient sites all kind of aligned to the same 100 years, because I think they weren't being built one after the other. I think that there was an established base of some sorts, ancient temples of some sorts, and then I think that they were renovating massively in the early dynasties. That's where I would say. So yeah, so maybe that then I do hold space to say that there's no hieroglyphs depicting how they did it, because maybe they didn't know how it was, because
Sure.
it was people had, I'm of a civilization and I don't know how half the stuff. If someone said to Johanna, it is up to you to describe exactly how an iPhone is made, I'd be like,
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah. So I'd say they didn't know. It was so boring they didn't care, or they didn't do it. Got to be one of
Mhm.
those three.
All right.
Or the
You want
one
to
you
read it?
said that it was
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
secretive. So it's one of those four. Take your pick.
All right. You want to take this one?
I always wonder what Akhenaten meant when he said old magic doesn't work anymore, or similar.
Mhm.
Paraphrasing there. Were the Egyptians starting to build the sectioned columns around that time? Well, Akhenaten is later. He's
New Kingdom.
New Kingdom. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because he's around the time of what would be kind of Moses.
Mhm. Yep. Yep.
The Akhenaten story aligns around the kind of Moses, let my people go type of thing. And so yeah, he was a lot later, and he was old school because he was like, yo, I want to go back and do the one God. And
Mhm.
um yeah, he was like, you don't need to access gods through the sacred holy of holies in the temples. It's all inside you. Very modern day spiritual, really. Akhenaten. What a legend. But yeah, so the question is, the old magic doesn't work anymore. Yeah, I definitely think that there are, if certain things had a function. So say that there was like a little situation set up on a site where you could move water around and you could create either a chemical reaction, a low energy nuclear fusion reaction, which they're showing that you can do now at very low temperatures. If there was something that was part of a process of that, and you remove one piece, or one piece gets broken, or one generation forgets how to turn the thing on or how to set it up properly, then nobody knows how to do it. So yeah, you'd be left with like mystery, old lore, old magic. I mean, what is science but magic, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, especially that's kind of another thing is I think that you know, as far as what we were talking about protected secrets is I bet you astronomers were probably paid pretty heavily by the king. And I bet you the king or the pharaoh, could come out and he could make proclamations as to, oh, this time tomorrow, there's going to be this happening in the sky, and it's because Ra or Amun told me so, and then it happens, and then everybody sees the divine power of the king. That's not really addressing this specifically, but I was just talking about secrets that nations have.
Yep.
Anyways, we keep going.
So yeah, I think that I think that definitely by Akhenaten's time, if you think about it, the first dynastic pharaohs would have been like ancient gods. It would have been the
Yeah.
same as like in England, we're looking back to King Arthur now, same time frame.
Yep.
In fact, probably even more than that, but we're looking back to King
Mhm.
Arthur and being like, "Ooh, King Arthur and the Round Table and Merlin and the wizards." We've already like there probably was a dude called King Arthur who like did some awesome stuff like
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
Dark
yeah.
Ages. And he's been memorialized in wizard lore and all this magic stuff. And yeah, I think that the same thing could have happened by Akhenaten's time. They're looking back at the old the dudes that did the industrial revolution of the fourth dynasty and going, ah, the ways of old, yeah, you don't know how something again, like imagine looking at an iPhone, but you just have the iPhone, but you don't have the battery thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you'd be looking at it being like, "Wow, what did it do?" Or like,
Yeah.
because you don't have the thing that powers the whole thing. So yeah, we're definitely looking at like maybe 2/20ths of the puzzle going, bet it's a tomb. Bet it
Agree.
was a piece of religion.
All right, Dingo. I'm traveling. Well, first off, is that 14.99 Aussies, or is that the
Yeah.
old US?
Australian, I think. Australian.
Yeah,
Oh,
because he's a
dingo.
dingo. He's a dingo. Yeah.
Good eye, mate.
Uh, okay, traveling to Rome soon. Key to see the Egyptian obelisk. You should make a video about them, Luke. By the way, huge fans of you both. Considering starting to study anthropology because of your videos. I say you should go for it because the reason I switched to anthropology, even though I always loved ancient history, my my original degree was creative media, marketing, advertising, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't even pass my classes because I hated them. And so I told my girlfriend at the time, who's I'm still with, Lauren, we got married last year. Um, I told her that I'm going to fail out of college if I don't do something that I love doing because I do not have the discipline to spend hours of my time studying things that I don't like. So uh, enrolled in anthropology, and it took me 2.5 years to graduate, and I just destroyed school. My last 2.5 years of college, and I was like a straight C and D student all the way through high school. And it's just because I was forced to study things that I didn't care about. So, anyways, I say go study anthropology because you're going to like it. And as far as traveling to Rome, keen to see the Egyptian obelisk. Yeah, you're gonna be amazed. I'm sure that they're gonna be absolutely massive. The one that's in the Circus Maximus, I think that's you may know this, Johanna. I think that it is the other obelisk that Hatshepsut commissioned in front of Karnak Temple. Is that right? That's
Mm-hmm.
the one that was taken to Rome.
Yeah, and the one out that Karnak has no. Yes, no, Karnak has the biggest obelisks that are still standing. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
lots that are not still standing, but the one that's yeah, and I think its twin is the one that that Rome took and
The
was
one
like,
that's sitting in Rome. Yeah. Um,
there's a
so
smaller
yeah,
one in London, but the Rome one's way better.
Yeah, and as far as making videos on the Egyptian or Roman Egyptian obelisks, definitely one day I will do that when I go to Rome. That's something I want to. This year, I'm really focusing on traveling to sites and making videos while I'm there, rather than just making video essays from home. Um, I'll probably get to Rome probably 2025. I think I'm gonna make a I'm gonna
Put
make
it
a
on the list.
out there.
Okay.
Sasquatch gifted 10 Luke Caverns memberships. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Congratulations
Nice.
to the lucky 10 people, whoever you are.
I didn't know that you could do that. That's
I,
cool.
yeah, I'm still a novice to this as well.
You can give
Um,
people memberships. Genius.
let's see.
Christmas presents all around.
Raceland again. Great Pyramid. You put the door on your side, right, Bob? Rick? Steve?
That's right. I get the joke. You get it?
No, I don't. I don't.
So like you finish building the pyramids because they've got no entrances, and you'd be like, you put the door on
Oh,
your side, right, Bob, Rick, Steve? Nobody put
yeah,
a door on.
that's actually hilarious. Okay,
Damn
yeah,
it!
I get it now.
It's all in the way you say it. Well done. It made me laugh.
That's funny. Tolkien Brown, you want to take this one?
Love you guys. Keep teaching. Keep sharing the hidden knowledge. Well, we're just spitballing here with you guys, and just yeah, this is so fun. This is how I want to spend my Friday night. So this is awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, thank you very much, Talking Brown. Because what we're gonna do, yeah, we're gonna try and we really appreciate people giving tips, but we also really appreciate just people watching. What one way that you can help for free is by teaching the algorithm that you enjoy this and help us reach more people. So if you just smash the like button or the dislike button, whatever but probably the like button, and you can
Preferably.
like write us a little comment in the main comments box because I know we're having fun in the this one, but this one then disappears and that's annoying. And then that's just the way that you can help us for free. Let adverts roll is another great one that you can. It's just every time you let an advert roll, it shows the algorithm and YouTube that you know
Mm,
that you can help us for free. So that
yeah,
you enjoy the
absolutely.
content and that you want to stay engaged. So yeah, we're gonna try and make it better. We want to make sure that the tech works. We're gonna try and do this more
Absolutely.
often. One
Yeah, yeah,
if Luke can quit his day job and be a full-time history raider of the past,
yeah.
then we're really gonna start to
I'm getting
run.
very close to that. I'm gonna quit or they're gonna fire me because when I hand in my travel schedule for this fall, my boss is gonna look at me and he's gonna go, "How do you think that you're gonna be able to continue to work here?" Because
Be
it's
like,
like,
right.
yeah, it's like on Thursday, I go to Oaxaca, this coming Thursday, and
Yeah.
then in September, I go to Peru for 2 weeks, and then October, I go to Egypt for 2.5 weeks, and then when I leave Egypt, I have to be in Guatemala 36 hours later for another trip, and then I have a trip, then I have a December Olmec tour that I'm doing, and then I have a January Egypt tour. So
Yeah, you ain't gonna. I mean, even and then
they're
that's
gonna
that's
fire me.
difficult for English. I mean, we get a lot of holidays as English people,
Mhm.
but I know as American people, you guys don't get a lot of holiday at all.
Oh,
So
we work. Work, work, work,
you
work, work.
work, work,
That's
work, 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 work.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a joke that's like when an American travels to Italy and he asks an Italian, "Oh, like what do you do?" The Italian says, "Oh, well, I do this and I like to cook and I dance with my wife and do this and that." And then they ask the American, "What do you do?" And he tells them about his boring finance job. That's it's such American culture just to work, work, work,
I
work.
got my American friends were like teasing me yesterday of sending me this meme for like 4th of July, being like, sucks that you have to go to work tomorrow. Ha ha ha. And I was just like, yeah, but I don't mind because we get like 20 days off a year. So sorry that you miss out on that. Damn. And then they're like, oh.
Yeah, we don't get anything off. It's horrible.
But anyway, so yeah, you're gonna be hyper busy. So yeah, let's
Hopefully, I can,
encourage let's encourage you to quit your job and do
yeah.
this.
Yeah, and by you guys watching and super
It
chats,
helps.
we're always
It
gonna super
really
chats. We're always
helps.
gonna take a segment at the end of these because sometimes like the purpose of a super chat is you can leave something in the regular comment section. I click those. Whenever you guys see me looking down, I'm reading the comments the whole time. We don't ignore them, and I always put up regular comments. But at the end, we take a moment to read these because sometimes you can try to send an email this, that, and the other. But this is a way that if you have something that you want to say or something, it's absolutely going to be seen.
Oh,
And we really appreciate it, and this helps out tremendously. Okay, so seriously, America? Question mark. I feel that. Thank you so much for the $10 donation. I volunteer to be tech support. I live in Houston, so easy to get to San Antonio for streams. I studied geophys at University of Colorado. I
nice.
help with production, live researcher, etc. Hmm.
I mean,
Do I
maybe
want to?
when
Do I
we
want
up
to take
our
the next step?
when we
Yeah,
up
yeah,
our production scale, but also you can help us. We can get like remote tech support. We don't really even need moderators because everyone's so nice in this community,
yeah,
and like we've
yeah.
got a super nice audience, and everyone on the whole is pretty sound.
Yeah.
But thank you
I
very
think
much for wanting
yeah,
to help.
I think as far as, like, we're maybe not at the point where we have to put out, like, community guidelines or whatever, but as long as you're nice, when I see people spam, like, I've seen one guy spam, 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 I'm gonna remove that comment because it's about curating a good community,
Yeah,
um, and, so as long as everybody's just nice, we'll be fine. But yeah, man,
exactly.
send me an email, just lukecaverns@gmail.com. Since you live nearby, that would be optimal. So I'm open to talking about it. But thank
Yeah.
you so much for the super chat. Decky69, thank you so much for the donation. And you want to read this one, Johanna? I think this is our last one for the
Yeah,
day.
it's the old magic doesn't work anymore is very interesting. I've never heard that one before. We're talking about the Akhenaten quote. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts to its meaning? I'm gonna note that down because I want to research this because I hadn't heard that Akhenaten quote or translation. So it's a very interesting translation because I mean you could take it many ways. You could take it like, he's talking about religion or metaphoricals, it depends on I need to see it in context of what he's talking about. It's like when you take a Bible quote and just pluck it out and try and use it.
Yeah,
You don't know the context if you don't know
that's
the
my
original
biggest pet peeve
translation.
about,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's my biggest pet peeve as well. Someone taking it and then using like half of it and then trying to say it
yeah,
like nah, in context, they were talking about sheep shearing. It's nothing to do with, Um, but I do have an inkling if, that if Akhenaten could be very well referencing um old sites that like don't work. Considering that um there are sites like Dendera, which is a New Kingdom site, and it's where the Dendera light bulb is,
mhm.
sort of under the temple. And that's a temple when I was talking about when you seed from an older temple. So Dendera is a New Kingdom site, but when they were digging into they were doing some excavating a couple years ago into the floor, and they found the top of a huge marble columns
Oh,
underneath
wow, really? Wow.
Dendera. Yeah, and these ancient, and we're talking like, yeah, like a big, huge one-piece marble column that is buried under the corner of the floor in Dendera. But also at Dendera, there are uh, reliefs on the wall. And when I asked our tour guide, Yusef Awan from Uncharted X's tours, he said this is a very detailed imagery and it's instructions on how to activate the building. And I was like, that's weird. It was like it looked like an image of the temple, and it had these like swirls in different arrangements in the different images, and it's how to activate a building. And
Interesting.
it sounds like a very physical thing with like sound or whatever. So whether that was spiritually activate it or whether that was functionally activate it or whatever. But yeah, so I like to think that the old magic doesn't work anymore. Maybe they'd lost the process by Akhenaten's time of learning how to activate sites, and
Very
that's
interesting.
that stuck with me. That imagery. I need to find my pictures of it.
Yeah.
Again, something else to. We need to have like a kind of post show notes where everything we're like yapping about, some we can find.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's a note to do.
As far as my point of view, I really am not an expert at all on Akhenaten. I know that Akhenaten, I mean, the reason that he's so, special or famous is that he's the heretic king. I mean, he flipped Egypt up on its head. He tried to move the capital of Egypt to this area that was perfectly between Upper and Lower Egypt to the city that he called Aten. And the prophecy that he followed to be able to find that city with the sun rising between two mountaintops and creating the sun disk between the two horns imagery, like, uh,
Mhm.
that is, it's all, he's a very important king, and there's a lot to know about him, and I honestly I just know that there's a lot to unpack there, and I have yet to dive
Yeah.
down to learn that much about Akhenaten.
You'll see
So
him in Egypt. It's so cool. He's the one pharaoh that looks really different. He's
yeah,
got
yeah.
a different aesthetic, different vibe. His whole religion was different. He was a great spiritual hippie guy, husband to Nefertiti,
Mhm, yep. And
uh,
his
dad
son was.
To Tutankhamun.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, I'm trying to see if I have my chronology right here. They are before Ramses. Is that correct? Ramses the Great. I think they're like right before him. I don't know. That's kind of
Uh, yes, because no. Wait, I'm trying to think of I did the timeline once. That was right down to Akhenaten, and then no, yes, right before, because then Akhenaten dies out. No, Tutankhamun.
mhm.
Gonna have to Google this before I embarrass myself. And then after Tutankhamun is the first Ramses.
It could
Who
be.
was who was before
I'm sure somebody in chat.
Ramses the first? Let's have a look. Um, or Ramses, the Egyptians. No, oh my gosh,
Jeremiah
Ramses.
said he's obviously, and he said he's handsome, but obviously an alien.
Now, do you know what? Why he looks so weird? I don't know why he looks so weird. Um, because obviously they always used to fit the exact same, Kim Kardashian cutout image of what they thought a pharaoh looked like.
Yeah.
And then he said, "I give you full permission to like depict me as I am, like go for it." But
Mhm.
because he was so like gave everyone such free reign, it kind of came out caricature-ish. So he looks more like a cartoon character than the other ones, but he's not big and buff and like serious. He looks more
Yeah.
like serene. He's got a little pot belly. He's kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, he said, show me unfiltered. I want the unfiltered Instagram picture. Thank you. And that's what, yeah. So we've got Titi. Oh, I'm getting the whole thing here. Middle Kingdom is New Kingdom. Amenhet. Gosh, there's some great names. I love the name. I love all the names. Tutmos, Amenhotep. We're getting down there. Akhenaten. Oh, and then after that, there was, Tutankhamun. And then Ramses the First. We were right. Yeah.
Somebody asked, what's that by my side? I have been waiting so long for someone to ask.
Because you do you know what? I think as we're going to close, because we need to come into land now,
Yeah,
I
we
was
do.
going to say, have you watched this week the Gladiator 2 trailer? Because it's just dropped.
Oh, I didn't know that it just dropped.
Okay, well then homework is to have a little look at the
We
Gladiator.
need to do a movie review day.
We do. And actually, I'm going to review. We'll do rewatch Gladiator if you haven't. Everyone, this is homework for everyone, by the way. Rewatch Gladiator and then go and see Gladiator 2 this month whenever it comes out. I mean, look at him. Luke's ready. He's ready. He's ready to
Oh,
go.
I'm ready.
Can
ready.
you please go to the cinema like just like that? That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Gary from Nerdrotic, he and I are going to see Gladiator together.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to
Decky69 says you must wear that from now on, and I agree. Yeah, so I found out this week that Cash he hasn't fully seen Gladiator. I was like, I'm sorry.
No way.
You haven't fully seen Gladiator. We need to sort that out immediately and watch that before the new one.
Yes, totally agree.
So I want to caption this for the like social media. This is great. Oh yeah, and I forgot we were gonna do an episode where we like are in costume. So I need to sort out my like Plato
For
outfit or
Halloween.
something.
For Halloween.
For Halloween, we'll do a
Halloween
Halloween 100%, and we'll bring costumes. Luke's already getting in the vibe. This has been great, guys. We need to come into land
This is our
because
longest episode for sure.
we've been going for 2 hours and it's late on a Friday night for me. So I've got to sleep,
All right, guys. Well, hey,
showing off his
thank you
gear.
all so much for a successful episode 4, I think.
Yeah, episode 4.
Yeah, we're
Raiders of the Past.
slowly improving. I'm learning to be a better host slowly over time. So, well, hey, do we have an outro yet?
Every time we also need to work out how we're ending it, because every time we're just like, see you later. And then we had like a catchphrase and then we both forgot it. That's how brilliant we are at this. So sorry about that.
Will do. I will wear this from now on.
I say my channel, I say happy hunting because we're all ancient history hunters in my eyes. So
happy hunting.
Happy hunting.
Well, yeah, we'll have to come up with something. Well, hey, I want to thank all you guys. This was really fun. I love doing this. And we will be posting at some point again when the next episode is. It'll be on a Monday.
Yeah, be in the next following couple of Mondays. We'll give you guys a heads up maybe next time. That's also something we can do.
All right, you guys. Happy hunting. Love you
Happy
guys.
hunting.
And